Welcome to this online seminar for the LJ Resource Bank, Finding the Flocks, all about finding and drawing in new members for your community. I'm Rabbi Anna Gerard. Gone are the days when every Jewish person automatically joined a synagogue. So if we want to find new members, we have to put ourselves out there, proactively seeking Jews in our area, making sure that they know what our community has to offer, providing a non-threatening opportunity to have a taste of our community, and then gently encouraging them to make the step of becoming members. The first part of this seminar is about getting the word out. Local Jewish people will not join your community if they do not know that it exists, do not understand what it offers, or do not perceive it to be relevant to them. We have to find ways to get the word out. Let's start by looking at ways of telling people that your community exists. This is a list of ways that you may already be promoting your community in the local area. The great thing about this list is they're all virtually free. You probably have a website, and this will be one of the main ways today that people contact your community. It's also worth being listed in the yellow pages or the local directory inquiries. Adverts in a local newspaper can be a good way of starting a new community or advertising particular events that you think will appeal to potential members. But they cost money. So let's think about the other ways that you can get free publicity. Your rabbi or other lay leaders may well appear on local radio, and sometimes you have articles written about you in the local newspaper. These serve other purposes, but really they are free publicity, so try to promote and encourage these as much as possible. If you have a publicity officer, ask them to try to develop relationships with local journalists and radio presenters to encourage this kind of activity. Again, giving talks in schools has another purpose, but can be a source of publicity. If there is a Jewish child in the class who goes home and tells their parents about the community. Be prepared to leave information about your community with the teacher or head teacher of the school so that they can pass it on to any parents that ask. By the same note, make sure that various local organisations have full information and contact details about your community and what you have to offer. Local hospitals, colleges, universities, prisons, wedding venues, hospices and funeral directors. These are all places that people come into contact with at times in their life when they probably most need a Jewish community. So make sure that the professionals there have your contact details to pass on to their service users. It will be good for them to do this, and it will be good for the people to make contact with you at a critical time. It's the right thing to do to support those in need, and it's also a great source of potential new members for your community. If you have a bit of money to spend, let's look at some other ways that you can promote your community. A brochure is a great way of putting all the information about your activities and what you have to offer into one place. It can cost as little as £100 to get designed and another £100 to have 500 copies printed. You then have a resource that you can give to your members to give to their friends, leave in key places like libraries and citizens' advice bureaus, and give out to potential members who come through your doors, or send them in the post if they contact you by email or telephone, so that they have an easy to read source of information about your community. It might be the same information you have on your website, but people like to sit down with something tangible in their hands. A business card is easier and cheaper still. and can be a great thing to give somebody at the end of a conversation. It can be disarming to receive a business card about an organisation rather than a person, but that's great because it leaves a lasting impression. And then they've always got your contact details to hand, and a reminder somewhere in their pocket that they might find later. Local listings are also usually free. Make sure you're in all of the online listings, including national listings like Google Places and Yahoo Local, and the various local websites in your area. Put your business card or your brochure on pin boards in libraries and community centres. And in every area, there is usually a local residence or community guidebook. There may be 2 or 3 in the towns your community attracts. At the back of these books is a directory that includes a list of places of worship. Almost every church will be in that list, so make sure your synagogue is too. Finally, if you have a bit more time on your hands and some willing volunteers, why not set up a stall at a local event? Our community in Stevenage does this every year. They have matching t-shirts, a nice display with photographs of community events, and they chat to people who go past. It might be that bypassers have a friend who's Jewish, who they tell about their experience of chatting to the local Jewish community. It might be that a Jewish person walks past and never even knew there was a Jewish community in your area. And then there is the kosher aisle. If your local supermarket has a kosher section, and if it doesn't, you should ask them to have one, then why not ask if you can put your business card next to the price tag under the most prominent products. It doesn't cost them anything, it doesn't detract from their marketing, but it might mean that people who are looking at these products, who are probably Jewish, find out that your community exists and get in touch, particularly around key festival times when they might be buying their matzahs or their apples and honey. You've also got a great resource at hand, your own members, who can tell people our community exists. Your members are your greatest asset. They are members of your community because they like it, and they get something out of it. There are lots of ways that you can work with them to get the word out. Like a refer a friend scheme. You've probably seen these in gyms and electricity companies. Why not have a refer a friend scheme for membership in your community? It will get people on board with the membership drive. You can offer them a gift, such as a challah cover or some handcrafted Shabbat candles, that will only cost you a few pounds, but may well bring in a lasting member of your community. It's a fun way to get people on board. Another fun way to enthuse people to join in with your membership drive is a memberometer. Like the fundometer we know from Blue Peter, the memberometer is a way of keeping track of how many new members you have managed to attract this year. So at the beginning of the year, you could set a target saying, we need to attract 10 new members this year, and then everybody gets on board as they watch the thermometer go up. If you think a thermometer is a bit un-Jewish, then why not make your memberometer in the shape of a Star of David? They tried it in South Bucks, and it was very successful. But it's not just the name and contact details of your community that you want people to see. You want them to know that your community is relevant. Not everyone will be interested in everything that your community has to offer. So you need to find ways to make sure that the right people hear about and have opportunities to engage with the right aspects of community life. It's about knowing your members and knowing your potential members. What do local Jewish people want from a liberal Jewish community? Ask them. Your own members, particularly the ones who are less engaged, are a great source of information about your potential members. Find out what would make them more engaged, and it is probably the same thing that would encourage other people to join. Jewish friends of current members. Ask your members to ask their friends what they are interested in and why they are not members of a Jewish community, and what might attract them to get more involved. Then you can look at the census and other local demographic information. You can find out from this how many Jewish people live in your area, and it's broken down into very small subsections, so you can find out where to target your next marketing campaign. You also might want to look at the other demographic trends. For example, is your area popular with young families who commute, or perhaps empty nesters and the newly retired? And then you can tailor your publicity to these trends. Ultimately, it comes down to trial and error. You may have to try a number of different initiatives and events to see what works in your particular locality and for your particular community. Do not be put off if the first venture does not exceed. Try something completely different. If the events are fun for your members anyway, they won't be wasted, and you may well just bring in a few new people. Here are some ideas of some events that work particularly well. Small dinners in people's homes. Select and invite a few established members, a few newer members, and a few potential members, and it gives them an opportunity to connect and get to know each other in an informal and friendly setting. It's less intimidating than coming along to a big event, and it means that they'll make friends with people who might invite them to the next service or other event. Cultural events are a great starting point for getting involved with the Jewish community. Some people might not want to come along to services because they've had a difficult experience of synagogue life in the past. They're much more likely to want to come along to a concert or an exhibition or a performance of some kind. So focus your publicity on these kind of events rather than your religious activities. And then there are niche events, especially if you've discovered a demographic trend in your area. If there are lots of small families, have the equivalent of a messy church in your synagogue. An activity for preschoolers. If there are lots of empty nesters and newly retired, focus your publicity around that demographic. You can even use humour, like in this advert. For every idea we have talked about today, there are hundreds more. Be creative, brainstorm ideas with a working group. You know your area best, and you will come up with loads of ideas that we haven't even mentioned in this presentation. It's important to think outside the box about how you can get the word out.